Hey, everybody. Coming up on today's show, we've got a little news about our good friends over at Rivian. Some good, some bad, some
ugly.
Yeah. We're also going to be getting into a little bit of news on the Stellantis front. They're committed to a specific badge of the family. We're going to get into that a little bit. We've got some futuristic news about a vehicle. Just think Doc and that
Marty,
that wacky kid Marty. Got some news there, and then we've got some interesting information that just dropped in our lap about the new VW ID Buzz, or whatever you want to call it, bus, whatever. All that coming up on today's show right after this. Once again, I am joined by my favorite co-host, Keith, over there. How you doing, Keith?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Jay.
How's it going, man? I like your hat. I like your hat. Do you?
It's you too can own one of these very soon. Ooh. If you are
I like
a fan.
That. I got to get back out on the merch front. We just so you guys.
I got to get the web store going.
That's what I was about to say. Keith's been extremely busy. We've had a lot of equipment issues as of late, and then of course that it opens up a can of worms with a bunch of other stuff. But we are growing to a point to where we're going to have to do some migration of some things over to maybe a different server or something like that. Get our website updated, and we're going to get a store going. So stay tuned to that, and we would appreciate any help that you give us, because if you do buy some of that merch, that give us a little love, and plus it's a little free advertising for us. You guys wear that. People want to ask you who are them gurus? That'd be Keith and I.
So can I just take a step back and ask, did worms actually ever come in cans, or is that just always sort of a figure of speech?
I think both.
Okay.
Depends on if you like to fish with worms, you could buy them in a can or a jar.
Are there factories that can worms?
No, they're like
what?
It's like used cans. You go to the store or go to a worm farm and take the can.
Got it. Okay.
Anyway,
but it was sealed, because hence the opening a can of worms is like.
Right.
Where,
it's just a twisty. It probably has holes in it so they can
spend way too much time thinking, Jay.
You do, man. You do. I gotta give you that much. Anybody who worries about a can of worms, but if I were you, I'd be worried about a can of whoop ass. That's the can I'd be worried about.
I actually have a can of whoop ass.
An actual can of whoop ass. Can our fans buy it? Can our fans go?
No, they don't. I don't think they make it anymore. It was made a while back by a company called Jones Soda, and I bought it specifically so that I could set it like on my desk. It's now on a bookshelf.
Okay.
Because it said whoop ass on the can, and I, didn't ever want to have to open it.
Yeah. But, So there you go. So are you ready for the? Here we are. We're middle of spring coming about here, and you've made some bold moves in the RV world. We were talking about that. You're selling or sold your 40-foot Thor.
Selling. Yep.
And you've got now. Did you say you had a new one on order?
Yeah, so a little bit of an update on that. As of last week, I got a message from. It's kind of like ordering a car, I guess, if you special order. I heard through the dealership and the manufacturer, and I've been talking to both of them directly, that mine entered production. Now, there's still some supply chain issues going on. It's still looking like they're projecting at best, if there are no more issues, July to August delivery
This year.
this year.
Wow, that's
Yep.
actually kind of quick,
Well,
considering.
Best case scenario.
Yeah, best case.
So,
scenario.
yep, got a new one on order. Not planning on taking any trips with it because honestly, just don't know when we're going to get it. But
Sure.
that also gives me time to sell mine and like just get everything out of it, which we've been working on.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Let's keep you updated on that. I look forward to seeing the new ride. Now you got a locked in price on that, right?
Sort of.
Ooh.
So they're not going to pull with me what they did with the Bronco.
They're not going to pull on you what Rivian did to its customer, right? Ooh,
Yeah.
Rivian. We'll talk about
no,
that in a minute.
So as much as best I could, I worked with them to basically keep me from being. It's non-binding, so I can walk away if I don't like the deal.
Okay. All right.
They do have the ability to make price adjustments if, the market changes.
Which can happen. I mean, we're in the middle of a market change right now with the gas prices and stuff,
But they're not stupid. If they try to gouge me, they know I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
And that's.
Here's
Yeah.
my question on that. I'm with you, and you can do that. That's your
Yeah.
right. But would they care? I mean, because that's like that's an industry.
It's a good question. So maybe not.
Yeah.
But it isn't like a Bronco. You can find these right now at some dealerships.
Right.
I'm pretty particular on the specifics that I wanted in it. That will come as no surprise to you. But if I was somebody that didn't have patience and time, it would be possible for me to go find one in the next month or two at a dealer. Now, I might have to do like what they call a fly and buy, where I'd maybe drive to Texas or fly to Texas and drive it home.
Yeah.
Or, Las Vegas. Like there's some in Nevada and that sort of stuff. So they're not as scarce as like the Ford Bronco, for example. And the other thing that's going to be a factor here is with the gas prices being what they are, that'll slow their sales down a little bit.
Right.
So do they care? Yeah. I mean, they could probably sell it to somebody else, but it's risky. That's a risky move
for them. It would be. Yeah, I agree with you. But, it's just I've seen a lot of this where it's people are pretty matter of fact. Certain businesses are very matter of fact about the circumstances that they're in, and they're like, well, we're in high demand. It's like you can take what we offer you, or you can just move on, because there's people are standing in line, and that's true in certain sectors of business right now. I get that, but it is crazy to think that could happen. But and if it did, there's some really negative impacts from that.
Man, that's a short-term cash grab. It really is. Like, you're burning people for the life.
Yeah, that can
your
hurt you.
relationship.
I mean, that can hurt you. And with today's social media and platforms that you can use to go in and tell your story, man, that's pretty risky this day and time.
Right.
That's the one thing we've covered this on previous podcasts, which, by the way, guys, for those of you that are listening to this podcast, thank you so much. And if you're subscribed, thank you. If you are not, you just happen to stumble upon this, please make sure you go over to partscounterguru.com/podcast links, and you can get any podcast you want, and you can go to any platform you want. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're Google Podcasts, we're Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Make sure you subscribe.
To quote ZZ Top, we're live, we're nationwide.
Yes, we are. We're actually worldwide. We're global, buddy. Yeah. But and also there are some video segments that we do bring out of these podcasts. So if you listen to this podcast and you want to see some of these video segments, you want to see what shirt I'm wearing or what hat Keith's got on that you might like to buy from our podcast or on our website, make sure you go to youtube.com/partscountergurus. And make sure you turn that red subscribe button to gray, and then click that notify bell up there so you'll be made aware whenever new videos like these will be coming out. So thank you very much to those who are subscribed, and thank you if you're going to subscribe. So, wow.
And by going to, that means do it now.
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
This is an interesting podcast. Now we do talk a lot about EVs, the EV world. because there's a lot of news around that. That's the big new thing now for auto manufacturers, and the big push for EVs. And
they already brought up the R word earlier,
right? So let's you want to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. So Keith and I both are big fans of Rivian. We are, but we're also not stupid to think that there aren't going to be problems and hiccups along the way. In my opinion, it's not the problem that you should be focusing on. It's how well the company takes care of the problem for you as a consumer.
Yeah.
As one who has spent your life savings on this fancy new R1T, how well is Rivian going to take care of me? So,
well, I had a guy, case in point, last week, friend of mine, we'll call him Dr. H, okay, said, hey, thinking about an EV, should I go Tesla? My son has like a Model 3, or, he's a Ford guy. Mm-hmm. He's got a 1-ton diesel, and he's got a Mustang, and he's a Ford guy. And he's like, that Mach-E, I saw the podcast you guys did from Within One, and, I've heard good things about it, and what do you think? And I said, how long are you going to keep it? And he went, I don't know. That's a good question. And I went, well, if you're going to keep it 3 years or less, buy the Tesla, because you'll have better resale value. If you're going to drive that sucker till the wheels fall off and then some, go with the Ford, because the Ford is going to have all those things that you just mentioned, Jay. They've got the R&D experience. They've got the quality. Tesla's toyed around with various versions of their repair service. Ford's got that worked out and has had it worked out for decades. Plus, the Ford interface is different than the Tesla interface. If you like the way Ford lays their UI out for all their buttons and controls, go with the Ford. So, same sort of deal here. You're getting into a brand new product line for a brand new company, and this is their very first vehicle that they're making. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that whether or not there will be problems. It's how are they going to deal with them when they show up.
That's exactly right. That's my point. It's that customer loyalty that's valuable to, and that's something that Ford. That's what they live on. That their customer loyalty is hands down probably some of the greatest out there. And if you don't think so, just go take a look at who's been number one in truck sales over the last decade or more. That pretty much proves it. But, again, sometimes in real world, that's the only way you're going to find problems, and that's where companies like this will either fall flat on their face or they'll win the race. So Rivian's already fixing this latest issue, it says, and it's a quality issue. It's an embarrassing situation that they didn't test this out and find this out themselves. But again, real world testing was actually performed. So it's been a little rocky for the release of these things. The fully electric offering started to look real promising when they were first revealed. But as it progressed, several cracks have formed in the walls, they say, if you'd like to use a kind of a term, if you will.
An analogy.
Analogy, yeah. There you go. Thank you for that, man. See, I needed a word for a word. I needed a word for my word. And then a word.
Now this is a rabbit hole.
Wait a minute. A bird is a bird, is a word is a word, word is a bird, bird is a word. Right. Okay. Anyway, Ford and Chevrolet have come out with their electric versions of trucks, and I bet you they won't have near the quality issues that Rivian
no one
has.
is immune, but but you've got like GM and with the Volt like catching on fire, and not an EV, but the Bronco had all the roof issues, possibly even some valve issues now. These are all first model type problems. That's to be expected. Honestly, if you're not expecting that, you're walking into the scenario with the wrong level of expectation.
That's right.
But But again, Jay, it's more to me anyway how they handle this. So what?
Absolutely.
What do we know about how they're handling it?
Right. Well, let's get to the actual defect here.
To the nuts and bolts, if you will.
The nuts and bolts, if you will. Yeah. So the NHTSA, obviously, which is
I miss my sound drop so much.
yeah, I hear you, man. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They're performing crash tests on the Rivian truck. And this goes back to earlier this year. They revealed that there is an insufficient amount of adhesive applied to the inside of the hood on some of these units. And anybody who has seen what I call raw stampings of, say, fenders or hoods and everything, I have, because I worked in the body industry. So they come in, you have to prime them, paint them, and then you put all of the adhesive where it needs to be, the trim, and then of course the insulator that goes in there, all that sort of stuff.
So I just want to stick a tack in this because I have a question about
Sure.
this when you're done with the details.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So they said also that Rivian revealed it had learned of the defect through a customer satisfaction campaign that it had aimed at getting their vehicles where they need to be. Goes back to what I said earlier. How is Rivian going to deal with these problems as they arise or as they find them? People who have taken ownership of their vehicles, which luckily for Rivian at this point, there's not a ton of them out there. So their recall campaigns are not going to be that big at the moment. So I don't know that it's on a scale, it's not a real good test, but just the act of acting upon the problem and taking care of it for the customer, it does appear that they are willing to step up and take care of these problems. Now, some of the customers, they said, because there's a lack of adhesive, they explained that a lack of the hood mastic adhesive does not appropriately bond the outer and inner sections of this hood, okay? As a result, their customers that have already taken ownership are experiencing annoying fluttering noises at speeds of more than 70 miles an hour. And to resolve it, they'll have to remove the hood liner. It'll have to be inspected in detail. And then a set of paths, they will apply adhesive wherever it is necessary to resolve this problem. It's not a safety issue. It's probably more of a nuisance and an annoying problem. But the fact that NHTSA caught it as well and said, hey, man, you really need to take a look at this. So there you go. Now, you had a question on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a feeling I might learn something here. Stay tuned, everybody. So the issue's on a hood liner, right? It's related to the hood liner?
It's actually not the hood liner. It's actually where the outer shell of the stamped steel and the inner shell, what they do is they seal them together. You'll see weld points, but some of them are they're done by this specific type of a bonding adhesive on certain spots. So it looks like a weld, but it's actually adhesive on some of these to keep the water out maybe, or to keep the air out of it. That's where this at. It's actually not the underpinning. It's the structure of the shell itself being adhered to the underside. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
it does.
Yeah.
Now, it does look like these R1Ts have a hood liner. I'm looking at a picture of one right now.
They do. You'd have to remove it to get to it to look at it, yes.
The purpose of a hood liner traditionally is to dampen noise, right?
Insulation, noise, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Right. Keep dust down. It dust gets in it. It can keep some dust down.
No engine.
That's right.
Under that hood.
That's right.
Why are we worried about noise?
Well, it's annoying to people. I mean, that's...
What kind of noise is a truck with no engine in the front?
It's a fluttering noise.
Well, that on the joint I got.
Correct.
But I guess I'm going off on a tangent here of why are we even putting hood liners on these electric trucks to begin with?
Right. It's just a poor design of the hood. Period. Or the
are they doing something that I don't know? Or is it an insulator for your Frunky Brewster, as we established? That's when you put your beer in the front, and then you put ice in there, and then you put the lid down, and it keeps it
right. And it could be some adjustment issues. You know how you have hood stops. They're little rubber stops that you screw in, screw out. You can adjust them. It could be a number of little things, but the based on the way I have looked into this, it appears that it is an actual adhesive that the inside and outside are actually becoming one. So, and that's, it says the brand explains that lack of hood mastic adhesive does not appropriately bond the outer and inner sections of the hood. So that tells me it is a two-piece hood.
Okay. And this is for, you may have already mentioned this, but basically any of the vehicles that were people took delivery of between, I think it was August to October of 21.
You are correct,
so right
sir.
now,
Good
it's
point to bring up.
to that group of people.
That is right. The flaws in particular includes those who have taken delivery of 2022 models, it says, between that time frame.
August to October.
That's right. So, and again, like I said, this is not that big of a deal for Rivian because they haven't delivered that many vehicles. Even though they were first to the show, they still got a lot of product to push out based on.
Well,
their
I bet those guys at
reservations.
Lordstown are just laughing their tails off right now at Rivian, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, look here.
here we are worrying about how we fix trucks that are already out, and Lordstown doesn't have to worry about any of that. Oh, right, because they don't have a truck out yet.
Yeah. Speaking of trucks that nobody have yet, now, while Rivian was busy working on this hood problem, they kind of stepped back and said, "Hey, man, the high cost of this, the high cost of that, we're going to jack up the prices on reservation holders that haven't taken delivery on their vehicle yet."
So this is why in the beginning of the podcast you were asking me if I had any sort of a pricing agreement.
Yes.
And I was thinking back to some of the Ford dealers pulling some similar things. This is okay in the way that Ford handled theirs and the way that Rivian is handling theirs. They're kind of different. Rivian was doing this at a corporate level at the top, right? The Ford discovered some dealerships trying to change prices at the dealer level. And they made this price announcement like right at the beginning of March that they were going to do a price increase.
Yeah,
is that right?
That's right. Yep. $12,000+ increase to current reservation holders' price of their vehicle. And some of these reservations...
Or you get a smaller battery.
Correct. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Which is not... Neither one is okay, in my opinion. But some of these went... The reservation holders go back as far as 2018. He got a lot of flack over that. RJ Scaringe is he's very hands-on with his fans out there, his customers. He tweets a lot.
I've said it before. I like this guy. I
do
like
too.
the way he runs his business.
He's transparent. He's not going to run from problems. I think that this is one of those situations where he heard loud and clear, and he kind of he backed off on the price increase. Good for him, right? He basically apologized and said, hey, we're gonna.
Let's see. I'm looking at his note here.
The letter. Well, I can give you verbatim here. He says,
cost of the components and materials.
Right. As they work to update the pricing to reflect the cost of those material increases, they wrongly decided to make these changes apply to all future deliveries, is what they say.
It's your fault for taking this long after you set the price to get them into production. And I'm not saying, you've got to give these things away at a loss. But that's not your loyal investor, people that are putting in pre-orders. That's not their fault either.
Yeah, but you know what RJ says?
What's he say?
This is what I like. And again, this is why we like this guy. I said, I think that companies like this are going to be successful. If you want to gain my trust, you got to deal with me the right way. And he listened to his customers. He says in his letter, while this was the logic, and the logic that he's talking about is crunching the numbers on the high cost, the cost increases to them as a company, we got to pass this on. He says while that was the logic, it was wrong, and we broke your trust in Rivian. Wow.
I love how he said it. He said... the most important aspect of what we are building is our relationship with all of you.
Yeah.
So this is not a guy looking for a short-term cash grab. As we demonstrated earlier this week. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he borrows my... we are definitely on the same page when it comes to that.
You guys are cut from the same cloth?
Absolutely, we are.
As we demonstrated earlier this week, trust is hard to build and easy to break. In speaking with many of you over the last 2 days, I fully realize and acknowledge how upset many of you felt. This is the part that makes me know that isn't just lip service.
Right.
He goes on to say, I have made a lot of mistakes since starting Rivian more than 12 years ago. How many people would acknowledge that?
Yeah.
I mean, heck, man, go to a 4-way stop sign and watch some guy run when it's not his turn, get honked at, and watch how he handles it. He's going to honk back, right?
Yeah.
The honk back. So you're not getting any honk backs from RJ. He's basically saying, no, he is saying, this one has been the most painful. He's talking about this mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I am truly sorry and committed to rebuilding your trust. That's about as well handled as one could expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I would work for that guy. In fact, I would buy a Rivian from this guy. There's no reason not to like what he's got going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that I've said this to people in the past. I know I've said it to you, but it's like auto parts stores. The automotive industry as a whole, period. Everybody's selling the same stuff. When I would have new hires come in, this is when I was way back when I was an area manager for a big auto parts supplier out there. I would interview them and I would ask them, what are we selling here? And they would ultimately, most everyone would not really come across with the answer I was looking for. Parts. Well, yeah, we are selling parts, but what are we really selling here? Parts? No.
Yeah.
Customer service, customer satisfaction.
The relationship.
The products will sell. The parts will sell.
Yep.
But the hardest thing to get out of selling that product is customer loyalty. And how do you do that?
See, that's it, man. It's fairly easy to sell at one time.
Mm-hmm.
But to sell the same thing to someone more than once,
right.
That's where it comes
this
into
guy
play.
Exudes
and that's where
success.
I think Bob Chapek at Disney could learn a thing or two from RJ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to do the one and done and counting on your kind of first timers
right.
to support your business model. I don't think that's a good plan.
Nope,
so
it's not.
Yeah, this one of the things we talk about, this is RJ. One of the things we talk about a lot internally is that we will make mistakes. It's part of building something complex. I freaking love this guy.
Yeah.
The key is to learn from them and address them when they are made. It's how we grow. If we made a mistake in how we approached our pricing, we made a mistake in how we approached our pricing. And what is important now is that we fix it. Yeah, man, mistakes are how you learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he's coming out and saying thank you for the personal notes and discussions that he had with so many of you, because your feedback is what makes us better.
Yeah.
That's right from dude, man.
He doesn't want to sell you one R1T. He wants to sell you Rivians for the rest of your life.
Right.
This guy's smart, man.
Yeah. I think that this is dressed for success right here. I got to give hats off to RJ for this. Once again, one of my favorite people out there in the automotive industry. There's a few that I do like. This guy is like top 5 for me. So keep doing this, RJ. We love you, man. And by the way, don't forget, RJ, you are more than welcome on the Counter Show anytime. Just reach out to my PR people. Go to the Contact Us page if you want to, and get this, come on our show. We'd love to have you on, man, and talk about this, because it's a big deal to me too. So, all right. So let's move forward. We've got a little bit of some. This is a good one. You like this? This is you, man. I'm going to let you lead off with this. You go ahead. I'm bringing us into it, but I'm going to let you start the discussion on this, my friend.
All right, go ahead.
This is so awesome. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little DeLorean.
I can barely contain myself. This broke. The news broke during the Super Bowl when they released a teaser.
Right.
Honestly, a little dig at them. If they've got the money to put an ad on television during the Super Bowl, they could potentially put a better resolution quality of it on their website. It just looks really bad. It's pixelated. You could tell it's scaled up too large for the resolution of the image. But I digress. DeLorean is coming out with a new model.
Could you repeat that, please?
There will be a new DeLorean in your future. You see what I did there, Jay?
Ooh, we're going back to the future, aren't we?
Maybe in my future.
Now,
so yeah.
Just before we get into it, I want to know really how excited are you about this?
On a scale of 1 to 10, this is an 11.
Whoa, yeah, I figured.
Okay, if there's anybody from my family listening to this right now, I need you to just turn the volume down and mute it. Just let it play, but turn it down so that you can't hear what I'm about to say for about the next 15 seconds. Okay, ready, go. All right, wait, let me give you 5 seconds to get the knob turned down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I think, Jay, and the rest of our listeners, I'm going to have to start sliding in some conversations about a future purchase and a pre-order so that I'm greasing the skids, so to speak, because I think it needs to happen.
I do as well. Now, I remember you were one that was you may have been looking at one of the older ones.
I did. I basically made
you were close.
No, the commitment word, like I was intent to buy, had the guy, we were in talks, and there was an odd string of events that happened during that time. And there was something in my gut that just said, I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah.
And then I think the pandemic and a lot of things broke loose, and it was kind of good timing.
I am a firm believer that if it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you are as well. And this might be the reason why. So let's get into it. What
right.
did DeLorean tell us during the Super Bowl?
So it's a teaser video. Most of the vehicle is in shadows. You can see the iconic gull wing doors open up from the side, so you know it's gonna have those. From the look of the lighting on the front of it, it looks like they're going EV. Does it not to you?
I'm pretty certain that's what it's gonna be. And here's why. Look, this is one of those iconic vehicles, brands.
Yeah.
That can get away with doing this. If anything, for me, I would expect them to go EV with this vehicle because of its. And people need to realize this was a very short life vehicle, 81 to 82. I think
pushed the envelope
for what it was.
Yep,
absolutely. It really wasn't made that famous until 3-4 years later.
4 years later,
Back to the Future comes out.
It was an expensive vehicle. Didn't have really no car in the 80s had a lot of horsepower, but it was underpowered to an extent.
Big time underpowered.
Peugeot made a lot of the engines. They weren't great engines, but the car itself, so many of them are still on the road today because of the quality of the build. I mean, that stainless steel. I mean, just John DeLorean took everything that he learned at General Motors and basically
blew it right up his nose.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that too, but he was hell-bent on a supermodel car.
Right.
And it's icon. We love things that push the envelope. That's why I think we talk about Rivian and Tesla all the time, because they're pushing that envelope, right?
Right.
So we don't know a whole lot more than that. We know that they're going to open the doors in 2022, so this year, for orders. Now, those pre-orders, how do you want to qualify that? They're basically saying on their Twitter feed, by the way, we're on Twitter, @TheCounter Show, DeLorean is saying the future was never promised. Reimagine today. Reimagine today. Sign up for the premiere of the DeLorean in 2022. So the premiere of the DeLorean this year, but we don't know what model year it's going to be.
Right. My suspicion is it'll be a 2023.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe a 2024. I mean, we're going to talk about something that happened a little later on in this podcast that has been talked about for 4 years that just finally was revealed. And we'll talk about that a little later in our podcast. But this DeLorean, it has to be an EV.
Okay.
It has to be an EV.
Let's do a so I've basically, again, anybody from my family that's listening at this moment, I need you to turn the volume down and count to 15 and then turn it back up. Okay, here we go. Ready? Go. Okay, so we've established that I'm already committed to buying one of these. So here are the things that I need to see, Jay, to make that, like, to keep me in the reservation system. Meaning, when this comes out and you and I can see details on it, here are some things that I absolutely must have to further that commitment. Okay, and welcome back to my family members listening into the program. Okay, so number one, the gull wing doors. I mean, like, come on, we already know it's going to have that, but you got to have that. I mean, if you don't, you know. Powertrain, if it's not an EV, it can't be a dog. It's got to be something rock solid, right? And that means that DeLorean is going to have to partner with another engine manufacturer. So it's got to be a solid engine.
Right.
Really doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Really does look like it's going to be an EV, or at least an EV version will be offered.
Right.
Other things, I'm pretty sure it's going to need to be stainless steel.
Yeah. It does. I agree with you. I want it to be that, but I think that what they should do is give that. You can have the traditional version, stainless steel, all stainless steel, but offer it in, say, 2 or 3 other different colors.
Okay.
You know, maybe a red one, maybe a black one. They actually did
do to the original version. Later on, they started offering painted options for people that didn't want the stainless.
I think that some people are a little hesitant with stainless steel. They don't know enough about it to understand how to maintain it, maybe, and you know, that sort of stuff. Which is, you know, that's an honest, you know, thing to not want to have to deal with. You know, paint, you put, you know, you get it detailed, you get wax on it, whatever. It's protected. Actually, some of the paints that they put on these things today, anyway, are so good. From the factory, they're pretty well ready for anything. But
I would take pause if they didn't offer a stainless, for me, if I didn't have a stainless or exposed metal option. For me, right? Like, that's, you know, now if they did it in some sort of anodized, I don't know, aluminum or something, I think I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
But as long as it's an exposed metal type, you know, we'll see, right?
Right. So once you get into some of the hashtags in the tweet, I think that's a telling.
Yeah, so they hashtag, well, they're playing around with EV. It's hashtag DeLorean evolved, but the EV is capitalized.
Right.
Which makes me think EV, right?
Right, but then they go
DeLorean, auto, electric vehicle, and then luxury, right? So it's going to be high end.
Right.
Which it needs to be. It does need to be. It's going to be an expensive car, everybody. This is not going to be a high volume, sales volume automobile.
No.
They're going to sell these in lower quantities.
And I'll tell you why they're going to go EV.
Okay.
Because if they're going to reveal it this year and have a model year, say 2023.
Yeah.
And you're not an engine builder, right?
Yeah.
Electric vehicles are a lot easier to deal with when it comes to EPAs and stuff.
I would agree, unless that's already been filed for, but then it would be public, right?
That's
we would
correct.
have to have already known about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I would wonder what platform they're on, though. I would want to know that. I mean, wonder if they're partnered up with someone like, say, a Fisker. You know what I mean? Or a Lucid.
Yeah.
Who are they with? Because there's another company out there
Tesla.
called There's another company out there called Atlas, who is actually selling a physical platform.
Right.
The skateboard, if you will. And you know, who knows? We don't know enough yet. But what I can say is that for them to achieve a production model vehicle in, say, a year model 2023, to me, it just seems like the path of least resistance right now would be electric vehicle. And again, it would bring a lot of excitement. Again, this is going to be one of those vehicles that you can electrify and people will absolutely love it.
And I do feel this is another important consideration. It wouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker for me, but it's important. And this is something Ford did with the Bronco, and we've seen several manufacturers do recently. Make it friendly to the aftermarket. So, you know, with the Bronco, there's so many modular options, right? Where you've got all these pre-wired buttons and panels and all that. Because you better bet yourself that people are going to go buy some Mr. Fusion and slap it on the back. Right? I mean, there's going to be stuff people are going to want to do with these. Okay?
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
You got to have your 88 miles per hour mod, right? Whatever, right?
Flex, your flux capacitor, air freshener, or whatever.
You got to have the time circuit thing you can detach or whatever.
Right.
And you joke, but there are people that are big enough fans of this movie that they're going to do that stuff to this car.
Wonder will it come with a luxury white lab suit to put on?
Right, with an extra. Well, if it's plutonium powered, you just get the plutonium case right in the back or whatever.
There you go. Man. Yeah,
yeah, and interestingly enough, this car, the original trunk was in the front.
Let's see. Right there. I mean, there you go, dude. There are so many right things about this announcement. I'm excited. I cannot wait. We're going to follow this story. Keith, you promised me you'll stay on top of it.
There is no chance
now,
that we don't follow this story.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and we got to get Sideshot involved when this happens, is that once they make the announcement to where you can go in and reserve. Let's do a live. Let's do a live reservation
in Texas.
Yeah.
They've also got some operations in California. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll do a live reservation. We will try to get these folks involved.
Yeah.
I'm talking the people at DeLorean, and
right. I can't wait.
How cool would it be if they did a commercial with some of the original cast?
Right. I think it's DeLorean. Here we are. We're coming up with ideas for you.
Solving the world's problem.
Please reach out to us. We'd love to have you on our podcast to talk about it and promote your vehicle. We would love to have you on here. You can come on our show and you can talk all you want about your DeLorean. I would love to have you on. So come on over. Do we know the CEO's name by chance?
It's been a while. I don't have it in my short-term recall.
That's changed hands several times in recent years too, right?
Yes. Yes.
So the love for the DeLorean from a pop culture standpoint is just to the moon, man. People absolutely love this vehicle, and again, it's a win-win situation for DeLorean going EV on this because it's going to be one of those vehicles, unlike the Ford Mustang, where people were up in arms about them even just adding, putting the word Mustang on the car, which I get it. If you're a Mustang enthusiast and a lover of Ford Mustangs, I get it. But the way that it was explained to me, the reason why they used the Mustang name is that they wanted you to realize that it still embodied that unbridled, just force and power and just performance of the original Mustang. They never came out and said, "Hey, this is a Ford Mustang."
All right. So the answer to your question,
yes.
In 95, Steve Wynn, not that Steve Wynn, a mechanic from Liverpool, founded the current DeLorean Motor Company.
Okay.
So 1995.
Wow.
And the current, Steve Wynn is still the president.
Okay. And so you're saying not the same Steve Wynn?
No, it's not the mogul.
Gotcha.
No, this guy's he was a mechanic.
Right.
I don't think it's the same guy.
Hey, I tell you
unless Steve Wynn, the real estate mogul, was a mechanic in a previous life, I don't think they're the same guy.
Right on. Hey, look, if you're listening to this, thank you. If you're not, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Parts Kind of Gurus. Make sure you leave us a comment. We want to hear what you think that this DeLorean should look like, should be. Should it be an EV? Should it be a gasoline-powered engine? What would you want them to carry over from the old model? What do you think the price range could be? Just give us an idea of what you think. That when they say it's going to be a luxury type vehicle, because that's what their focus is on, with modern stuff, and it's going to be electric. Just imagine that, and then leave us a comment, and we'll read you out on the mailbag, and we'll do a whole mailbag segment on the DeLorean comment. So there you go.
So a little bonus round for you here before we wrap. This is still a privately held company. I'm talking about the current iteration of DeLorean.
Okay.
Which, if you look at what, the path that Tesla went down and then later Rivian, it's expensive to roll out an EV platform without investor cash flow. Right. So we could be witnessing a change here very soon in the private status of. See, they're a private company. They don't really have to share much of anything because they don't have shareholders, right?
That's right.
But that could change.
Exactly.
They are still basically following their initial plans to do the low volume vehicle manufacturing. There was an act that was passed.
Which is great. I think that should be allowed. That's great.
So there you go. Stay tuned. More soon for sure.
More coming. So just stay tuned. Just wait for the future. Talking about future, gosh, I mean, flip-flopping back and forth over the last several years on this new Volkswagen, what they call the VW ID Buzz, which is basically, it's the old transporter van, the old, VW van, the hippie van, if you will, from the 60s and 70s. I think they even went through, I think in the 80s too, didn't they? When did they stop making that?
Yeah, I think so. I think the early 80s.
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
not mistaken.
For a number of reasons, I think Volkswagen was headed in a different direction, as were a lot of auto manufacturers in that time.
Right.
But, that's a loved vehicle, man. I knew people back in the 70s that were friends of my family that they took their family vacations in that thing. Some of them had the pop-up tents in them.
So the engineering, they were so well thought out. I think that helped contribute to that love that you're talking about. Things about basically taking a smaller space than your typical RV.
Right.
And you being able to sleep, as many people as they could, having a kitchenette, sometimes a refrigerator, sometimes a cooktop in a lot of them, right?
Right.
Some of them water, some of them, small.
Yeah.
Like, this is German engineering at its finest, right?
Yes, it is. It really is. And it's, I watched the reveal of this thing live. And basically, here's what they, what's said about it is that after 5 years, okay, and this is no lie, it's long awaited. It really is. It was revealed. They revealed that the all-electric van, it was a virtual. They revealed it during a virtual event, and it basically likens back with what they so it goes back to its iconic Type 2 microbus. And they say, think hippies, et cetera, flower power and peace signs, which you totally get that feel with this thing anyway. But they brought in a heavy hitter, which is the first that I have seen. I
got all kinds of thoughts on this.
So let's talk about it. Tell them who was involved in the reveal. Okay. This is awesome. I thought it was great.
Now,
good for
most
VW.
of us know him from his most iconic role as Obi-Wan Kenobi, right?
Yep.
Ewan McGregor. You know him from Moulin Rouge, Jay.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm sure just watched for Nicole Kidman. But yeah.
Exactly.
I'm joking. Famous Star Wars actor, among many other things, and lots of credits, but probably his most famous role being that of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
The young Obi-Wan Kenobi, not the original Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi, as Luke called him in episode 4. That was a different actor. Okay.
Right.
So VW, who's got deep pockets and owns lots of, they own Bugatti, they own lots of automobile, Ducati, all of it, right? Brings in somebody who is polished to do their presentation.
Right.
That's expensive, but now you watched it, I didn't. I feel like without having watched his delivery, I feel like that's the way to go. Hire an actor. These CEOs that want FaceTime and they stand in front of the camera and they do their, even Tim Cook. Like, I'm watching Tim Cook and I can tell, like, it's, it's a CEO doing, basically a recorded. It would be better with somebody that's used to their day job, if you will, is standing in front of a camera talking, right? So, was it worth it? Whatever he costs, was it worth it?
I think I personally. I think it was because it wasn't what I expected once they got into it, which is something that I did not know about Ewan McGregor. But he is a big fan of Volkswagen. He collects Beetles. He has quite a few himself. He got into the discussion on that as a kid growing up. That's what he grew up with, VW Beetles. Loves them. So he was kind of a perfect fit for someone who is not only a VW enthusiast, but is also very recognizable to the rest of the world, no matter what part of the planet you're on. Who didn't watch Star Wars and who doesn't know who
what
he
planet
is.
you are on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
What was well played throughout this, in my opinion,
Naboo, Coruscant,
yeah,
Tatooine. I can keep going.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Continue.
Well, so the styling of this vehicle, they didn't steer away much from the old look of the VW, microbus, if you will. And I thought that was huge. It proved to be huge for Ford when they brought the Mustang back. It proved to be huge for Ford when they brought the full-size Bronco back. In its styling, how it looked, it pays homage to the old one. VW did exactly the same thing that we had hoped that they would do with this, which is bring back the microbus, but give it that same old 60s and 70s feel that you saw with surfboards on the top, with peace signs on the outside of it. But it's an all-electric vehicle.
But with modern amenities.
But with modern amenities.
We're not doing the whole sort of 70s, the bad parts of the 70s.
Exactly.
We're just trying to capture that vibe.
Yes. Now,
okay.
Here's what's
the
also
free spirit.
Right. Here's what's also very, very cool about this reveal, and I think you were most interested in, was they didn't paint themselves into a corner here with just this one bus model. They decided to do a passenger and a cargo variant. Very, very smart on Volkswagen's behalf.
Yeah, because nobody's doing any sort of delivery services in a pandemic era.
Right.
With groceries, consumable goods.
Right.
No, there's none of that going on today.
Oh, and there's no plumbers running around with tools in the back of their van. There's no pest control folks that are getting out, helping you with the insect problems that you might have. Oh, and there's no, cable guys coming around.
Well, we already know the mail trucks aren't going, if you've been following our show, they're not going electric. Looks like they may have just would a U.S. federal agency contract to, Volkswagen's a global company.
I have still scratched my head on the original Drummond LLV.
Yeah.
As well as this new one. I don't get it. There's so many more options out there that are already available.
Yeah.
That you could cut cost on instead of going out and hiring a design team and overpaying for something. Look, the government's overpaying for everything. They do.
Yeah.
They are.
The famous toilet seats in the space shuttle, right?
Right. The ashtrays, right? The testing of ashtrays and how they break and that sort of just come on.
So I kind of pulled you off here. So they've got a cargo version.
They do. They do.
Smart.
It's very smart. It's a rear wheel drive version of this. Now I will say this: I was a little disappointed they didn't give price ranges. They didn't get into the tech specs of this thing very much at all, if any. They do say that it's based on Volkswagen's MEB platform, which is their electric battery electric vehicle platform.
And they're doing the same thing Ford's doing with the F-150 in that you can transfer power out of these vehicles into something else, like your home or whatever.
Absolutely. Right? And here's the other thing, is that VW's taken pride in this because they got hit hard. Don't forget about Dieselgate, okay? Dieselgate happened, and they got a huge black eye over that, man. That was not a pretty sight. They were fined very heavily for that. But VW has come back, and they've really made good on this. And their thought of sustainability, their movement towards sustainability is huge here. And they say this throughout this vehicle that they use sustainable product. Like They talked about the sustainable materials that were used, like the interior, the seats, the floor coverings, the headliners are all made from recycled plastics. Around 90% from old bottles, 10% from marine plastics. The steering wheel, meanwhile, is made from polyurethane rather than leather, but it has the same type of high quality look and similar feel. It's got the connectivity that you want. They have what they call the Car 2X. I was talking to you about this off screen, to where it's a local warning system which utilizes signals from other vehicles and the transport infrastructure to spot hazards in real time, which is great.
Yep.
It's like their own little ecosystem.
Yeah, as long as they're not going to charge a fortune for it. That would be the only downside.
Again, no pricing has become available yet, and we've got a little bit of information on the powertrain and charging, but not much, not enough to really kind of chew on. But they have what they call the so-called travel assists with swarm data. It says facilitates partially automated driving across the entire speed range, and for the first time, assisted lane changing on the motorway or the freeway if you're a U.S. Citizen here.
Right.
And a new memory function which allows automated parking on previously saved routes. Now, they are one of the first with the level 4 autonomous technology built into this thing, ready to go. They're going to be offering over-the-air software updates automatically, no problem. What they're saying is the ID Buzz and the ID Buzz Cargo are launching across Europe. They're going to say with a 77 kilowatt per hour battery and a 150 kilowatt electric motor mounted at the back and driving the rear axle.
Any accessory windows or hatches for my droids, Jay?
Maybe. So check this out. Lithium-ion battery, obviously.
Yeah.
It can be charged from wall boxes or public charging station using 11 kilowatt AC chargers. Using a CCS plug connector. Can you elaborate on that CCS plug adapter?
Yeah. So I think
with using a CCS plug connector at a DC rapid charging station,
that's where I was going to,
the charging power increases as much as 170 kilowatts. Wow.
Yeah, so it's sort of a standard. You know about standards in the automotive industry,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And so, you had now. Look, everybody, please don't flame me for getting a few details wrong in this. I'm giving you the big picture here. I'm giving you the layman's terms. It's not going to be exactly accurate. So Tesla came out with their own on their superchargers, and they kind of pioneered it. And then you get third parties kind of doing their own kind of charging systems that work with more than just Teslas. They work with Fords. They work with, the original Nissan Leaf, the current model Leaf, basically any EV. So all these manufacturers are having to basically, when they sell you the car, you get a bunch of adapters so that you can recharge at not just, say, Tesla's recharge stations, but anyone's, Ford's, whatever. Right. And so the CCS is a standard. Tesla's been trying to adapt to it or provide adapters.
Well, that's good for consumers. This just makes everyone's life much easier then.
So it's going to let you tie in. So I guess why that matters is if you don't have the right communications happening in those adapter plugs, you won't get the full charging capability of speed and rate of charge, because they could literally cook your batteries if it sends too much juice too quickly. Right. And that's where the communication platform has to be in place.
It does. It definitely makes sense. So basically it sounds like they've taken all the stuff that they've seen happening throughout the EV industry period, and they're trying to get it to where, okay, we've got something that's it's a one size fits all, or one shoe fits all, if you will, in regards to the charging processes. Now, what they say when they charge the with what we're talking about, when it's charged in this way on the fast charging using the CCS plug connector at DC rapid charging stations, the battery level, the charge level rises from 5 to 80% in about 30 minutes. That's huge. They say it will also get VW's new plug and charge function in the future, which will allow the van to authenticate itself as compatible with DC rapid charging stations. That's what you're talking about.
You're having these multiple standards, charging types, connectors, if you will. And the systems that you plug into sometimes will go, well, I'm not sure what you are, so I can only send you this amount of current. Now, there's a downside to this too, which is, charging fast is great and all, but you're shortening the lifespan of those batteries.
Right.
The faster you charge them.
Exactly.
I'm talking about years, right?
Right.
You're trading minutes for years.
Right.
Or months.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely you are.
Lithium ion there's a limit to how fast you can charge it without doing damage to the batteries themselves.
And again, everybody, the batteries that we see now in 2 years will be different than what we're looking at now. Just think 10 years down the road in this EV world that we're going into, where we will be potentially with this. The EV as you see now, that you know now, will not be this in 10 years. It will be different. Technologies will be there, but they will be improved upon. Things will become smaller, lighter. I guarantee you that they will become more efficient, because at the rate that we're growing the EV market, they kind of almost have to. They don't want to paint themselves in a corner where they're left with bunches of vehicles out there that are junk. They have to. Yep. Each year is a transition to the next level. This is just like we talked about in the previous podcast about Apple and their continuous changing and updating stuff. It's the new norm. It's just how it works. What they're also saying, and I thought that this was a very interesting note, and it's worthy of bringing up. Bi-directional charging will also be happening with this. Bi-directional charging will also let drivers feed unnecessary energy from the battery into their homes via a special DC wall box.
Yeah, or just anything. But yeah, so, and by the way, I looked this up just because I didn't want to misspeak. CCS, which by the way stands for Combined Charging System. The standard that we're on right now is version 2. So there was a version 1. I honestly don't know how many people adapted to it. Version 3 of CCS is in the works. I believe they're still trying to define the specifications for that, but right now we're on version 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
Combined charging standard.
Yeah, again, just like we just said, things change. Yeah. And it will. It'll change for the better. So welcome the change, guys. I'm telling you.
Yeah, right.
5 years down the road, that might be when I seriously look at, especially when the DeLorean comes out. That might be when I'm looking at an electric vehicle.
Right. And there's a certain amount of backwards compatibility you have to factor in, because, you don't want to have a standard that comes out next year not work with cars that were made last year.
Right.
That would be bad.
Right. Absolutely. So to wrap this particular VW segment up, guys, in a nutshell, there is no pricing available that I can find yet. We'll stay on top of that. We'll bring that and we'll update that on our podcast. So make sure you go to partscounterguru.com / there's no / just hit podcast links and go over there and check that out. We're on every available platform out there. So thank you, and make sure you hit the subscribe button there. So here's the deal. No price availability. European pre-sales for both the cargo version and the passenger version will start in May of 2022, but they won't hit the road until the autumn. That's in Europe. Unfortunately, as us Americans, the U.S. market will have to wait a little bit longer to find out when you can get it. It's probably going to be more like a 2024 model is what the buzz is right now and what we're hearing, which makes sense. Let's face it, headquarters for VW is in Germany, which is where they held this press event. They're still continuing to do a lot of testing. What a great way to roll it out into their market. Get a lot of those bugs before they present it to the U.S. market. They want to make sure they've got their T's crossed and their I's dotted. That is why they will roll out in Europe first and not here. So there you go. Enjoy the VW ID buzz. Interesting, man. I don't know. Now I think I may have to have one of those and a DeLorean.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. So, I think it's time that we move on to a little Stellantis news. Can't get enough of Stellantis. They're quite the large company. Big time.
So I mean, still kind of dealing with some electrification here first. I mean, right? Should we talk about the Jeep?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, and yeah. So let's talk about the Jeep. Right. What just happened with that Jeep?
Well, they just dropped first part of the month, so just relatively recent.
Right.
They did a whole we're gonna get into this in a minute. They had their Dare Forward presentation, which basically it's kind of a fancy corporate term for a long-term plan, like a 10-year plan, 20-year plan, something like that, right? So it's about a 10-year plan at this point. Okay. Carlos Tavares, who's their COO, changed direction on several things, but before we get into that, he announced their first fully electric Jeep.
Right.
And so now there was the 4xe. You've heard us talk about that before. They famously put like a monolith in the in the commercial.
Right.
But that's not 100% electric.
Right.
So they have revealed basically renderings at this point. I don't think they don't even have prototypes, but that it might be a prototype. But it's their first fully electric Jeep. They're calling it an SUV. It really looks to me more like a crossover.
It is a crossover. I don't care how you slice and dice, and that's just the renderings of what we're seeing.
It's a two-door, with a hatch. So it's a three-door, right? Or does it have suicide doors?
It's kind of interesting. Now, you know how the Hyundai Veloster has that third side door?
Yeah.
It looks like it may have that.
I see the door line. I see the panel line. Yep.
You see that? It has a back window too, so it would make sense that that's the case. So it's either going to be a 3-door and a hatch, or a 4-door, or a 3-door and a hatch, or a 4-door and a hatch. So either a 4-door or a 5-door, however you want to call that.
Yep.
It looks like. It's 100% battery electric.
Yep.
It'll be the first Jeep SUV out there. When I looked at the renderings, you know what I immediately thought? It's got heavy European styling, by the way.
It does.
Which makes sense. It's Stellantis is involved with this. It makes sense for them to kind of... You can't go back and take away from what's there already, like the Wranglers. The Wranglers have to look like the Wrangler, right? You can't go mod those things up and make them look European, because you're going to lose some customer loyalty there, I think. But with this is a different story. It's a different market that they're going after. It's a different person they're going after with this. So, for example, both my kids would be attracted to this vehicle. And I see why, because it's futuristic, it's modern, has a lot of those nice stylings of a European styling, more futuristic style vehicle.
Yeah, but still has the kind of iconic Jeep.
Got the iconic Jeep front end on it.
From their SUV line, like their
yes,
Cherokee,
like your
Grand
Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, etc. Now, when I looked at this thing, I thought, wow, it kind of almost looks like Rover a little bit.
It does.
You know,
see that.
What's what do they call it? The LR3 or 2 or whatever, the little puffy one or whatever. It has that look to it to me. So, depending on what goes into this thing is going to depend on it's going to make the price either attractive or we don't know if it's entry level or what yet.
Well, now along those lines, since you mentioned price, you know what kind of surprises me about this, and I'm guessing a little bit here, but I feel like they went with this platform and size first to appeal to more consumers and maybe to get more range out of a lighter vehicle. If I were Carlos, and I don't know everything Carlos knows and have access to all his information, I would probably be more in the school of thought to start with my luxury flagship line and absorb the cost there first, and then let that R&D trickle down into the smaller line. I would have started with the Grand Wagoneer, which they already alluded to an electric version several years ago.
It's funny you say that, because we're going to get into something here in a bit about Stellantis and sort of the revival of one of the badges, and we'll get into a little bit of that.
I think I understand why he's doing what he's doing, but I just don't know that I would have started here.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. You're committed to putting electric vehicles out. Okay?
Yeah.
You got
whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
Said, right?
2 months ago he was saying we can't do it. There's no way
Yeah.
possible that we have the money to invest into what it's going to take to do this right. And then here we are, a couple months later,
Right.
we're actually putting EVs out on the road, or
Right.
going to be putting them out on the road. I think with this, though, what he's done, Jeep is a very iconic name, as we all know, and it has impact globally, always has. But with this, if you're trying to sell an all-electric Jeep, sell it, and you got to sell it globally because you're a global supplier. You're a global auto manufacturer. And how can I develop a vehicle that has the Jeep name without really disrupting or screwing up what we already have, the history of
Right.
what we have in the past, but I want to really sell it globally? How do I do that? Well, I create something brand new, slap a Jeep name on it, call it a crossover or SUV or whatever you want, and make it an EV. And then guess what? You're going to move units. And we've had these discussions, Keith. Your stockholders, your shareholders, this looks good to them.
Yeah.
They're going to sell, right? It's
Yeah.
more candy. It's more candy to put in the storefront. And that's exactly what I think that they've done here with this thing. Now, again, this is a situation where it looks like all Jeep brand SUVs, they say, will offer an electric variant by
Version,
2025.
So
which
that's
which
right
is
around the
interesting.
corner.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what they're doing is they're buying themselves some time with this one first. This is the platform we're going to go with. Let's try it here. Let's see what happens. And then we'll start squeezing in maybe the Wrangler and the Compass and those sorts of things. My thought is that they're going to be going towards those. They might even be getting rid of the Compass. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And this takes its
And
place.
this takes its place.
I'm going to reread what you just said there because I want to. This is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
This is from Stellantis. This is their media website. This is a press release directly from them. This is straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. Okay. This isn't some third-party website commenting. This is what Stellantis is telling the media.
Right.
All Jeep brand SUVs will offer an electrified variant by 2025.
Right.
All Jeep brand SUVs.
Right.
Okay, not their off-road.
Right.
And they're also saying an electrified variant. Well, technically, the 4xe is an electrified variant, although it has less than 20 miles of range
Right.
on the
It's
on the battery
more of an
side.
electric assist than it is.
But it's an electrified
But it's an
variant.
electrified variant.
So what they are not saying is that we will have an all-electric version of every one of our vehicles in the next 3 years.
Right.
They're
You
not
read
saying that.
Yep. You're going in and reading between those lines and parse those words. You're exactly right. That is exactly what he is saying. So good catch on that. People, it's all about marketing when it comes to big announcements like this,
Yeah.
and you have to look into that and make sure your information that you are absorbing is actually what you think you're absorbing. Otherwise, you could.
Or you just watch us and subscribe on our show, and
Now,
then
I like that. I like subscriptions.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. We'll tell you when the next news breaks on this. We cover Jeep and Stellantis in general quite a bit, so you've got a home here, everybody. Please and thank you.
Right, exactly, man. So on the Stellantis subject, and we talked about this when it comes to electric vehicles. They came out with this Dare Forward 2030.
I think we're gonna have to keep our eye on Carlos.
I am too. I think that there's some
This
big
guy's
things.
been feeding us some red meat for the past 6 months that we've sort of had a little snack on, and now he's starting to throw more comments out there, and it's getting interesting, Jay.
It is getting interesting, and they are a huge company that has a lot of manufacturers under their umbrella. Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, all these things, and they know that they've got to get it right with these what we call the U.S. domestic models, and so they're taking some steps with this new challenge. So Dare Forward 2030. Let's tell you about what it is. Okay, tell you what it is. Okay, it's a strategic plan for the next decade. that will drive Stellantis employees, they say, to be second to none in value creation for all of their stakeholders. I get that. They are committing to becoming the industry champion in the fight against climate change, and they have set their goal of reaching carbon net zero emissions by 2038.
Let me ask you something.
Sure. That's 15
Hypothetical,
years.
theoretical here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Chrysler, you've owned some Chrysler products, right? This isn't my question. This is all leading up to my question.
Okay.
But this is part of my question. So would you answer that question?
I will. I will.
You have owned Chrysler products, yes?
I have owned some
or
junk.
whatever
yes.
you want to call them, FCA,
Yeah.
Stellantis.
Right.
Okay.
It was FCA. Yeah. At my time when I owned Chrysler. Right. Yeah.
So do you feel like for a good while now, was this a true statement? Do you feel like they've been kind of the whipping boy of the automotive industry for a while?
Pretty much.
I mean, they've kind of been the butt of jokes. They've been trying so hard to be first, but they've just never quite been able to pull it off.
Right.
So now the Ram line, look, the trucks are awesome. I'm just saying as a general brand, everybody,
Right.
they've always kind of had this, they've been let in the room at the party, but it's kind of like Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters. Like they just kind of, they let him in because he did everybody's taxes, but they didn't really.
Right.
All right. So,
Yeah.
so really, here's my point. They need another Lee Iacocca. They really haven't ever been the same as they were under Iacocca. That was kind of their golden era. Would you agree?
I do agree with that. I think Lee Iacocca put them back on the map. He did the same thing with Ford. I mean, he was part of that success of the Mustang and, those years. And then he comes. Unfortunately, and you and I have joked about this, but we joke because we experienced it. And Lee Iacocca had to come in at the Chrysler level and deal with the 80s phenomenon of making boxy cars with terrible paint jobs and lousy emissions.
Yeah.
But it was during a transitional time for
that
the
smelled like
industry.
rotten eggs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could still get that. You could still get the that Corinthian leather.
Right.
Even on that.
Well, he was smart enough to again. Here we go. Hired a Hollywood actor.
Right.
That time, Ricardo Montalban.
Right. Zeppelin, boss.
Well, that was Hervé Villechaize. Are you impressed that I know the names of both the actors from Fantasy Island?
Yeah.
But they brought in a somebody that was a professional at speaking to the camera to do their PR. So they need that again. They need somebody that's a visionary to sort of lead them through these troubled waters.
Right. I agree with that. And I think that you also have to, when you do that, you have to use your current clout or prior clout that you had in the industry. And let's talk about this. Chrysler has been that whipped little guy in the corner, man,
It's 2 vehicles left in the United States with the Chrysler badge on them.
That's it. That's crazy.
The 300 and is it the 500?
No, the 300 and I think the Pacifica.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
And I think there might have been a minivan. There's up to 2021. I think there might have been a minivan, a Voyager in there as well.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But here's the thing: when Carlos made this commitment to the Dare 2030 to go all electric, to their net zero, he saw an opportunity with a failing badge. But he also understands the iconic past that Chrysler has, which is a luxury, almost VIP type branded vehicle, man. And there are a few of those that are out there, but I think with the Chrysler badge, you can achieve that. So here's where we're going with this, guys. They're going to revive Chrysler in an electrified way. And he says that the brand will be relaunched with gorgeous new models. He also said that no additional Stellantis brands are coming to the U.S. market, and on that list, obviously, is Peugeot, Citroen, as well as Opel and others.
Fine
not
with
so
all that.
right. Fiat,
they've
for
got to
example.
fix what we've got first. Now the Fiat, this is boy oh boy, this is a great example. So I had a girlfriend in high school, had a Fiat Spider convertible, right? True Italian roadster,
Right.
all right? With all its quirks and odd clutch and the whole deal, right?
Right.
Fiat basically today is not. It's just the name.
Right.
There is no congruence between the cars that used to be Fiats and these cars that they're doing today that have that badge on them. And he's basically he said, we still have to think about how we make the Fiat brand rebound in the United States. I mean, you can start by having them not suck.
Right.
That would be, like they're just, what are they? I mean, it's just a little tic tac of a.
Look, I think that the Fiat 500, that model, that brand, I think it failed miserably in the U.S. because let's face it, many
right
won that battle.
Who's your audience, right? So you're going to go into the small,
right?
The Mini, no pun intended, market. You've got Mini Cooper, who has a very strong. We've owned one. You own one. That's a solid car. It's owned by BMW,
right?
Then there's a couple other competitors in there as well, but Abarth has one, or Abarth has one, I think.
Right.
This is really it's the last choice on a lot of people's list, right? In that car class.
I think they're going to lose that. I think that
you just
Fiat will
give
go
up
away.
on that.
I think it will go away, and I think the technology that they're moving forward with, this Chrysler brand, the bring back Chrysler Electric is gonna be a win-win situation for them.
Now, can I offer here's how I would say Fiat in the United States if I were Carlos?
Go ahead.
Not saying I'm trying to tell you what to do, Carlos, but I am saying that we've got a pretty good track record here on the Counter Show of calling things that either could or should or will happen and having those things go really well. Would you agree with that, Jay?
Yes.
All right. So this is my humble suggestion to the Fiat platform if you want to rescue it.
Right.
Okay. Step 1, throw everything you've done out the window and go EV. Step 2, make a Roadster. Step 3, corner the EV Roadster market for convertibles so that, like the Mazda, the Nissan Z Roadster, everything in that price point, but you've got an electric version of a 2-seater.
There you go.
Like the old Fiat, but a modern electrified Fiat with lots of luxury on an EV platform. Mm-hmm. And that's where you win.
Yeah, absolutely. We're saving the planet.
You're already you're thinking, where can I go pre-order one of these, right?
I'm on it, man. I'm on it. But look, let's talk about what Chrysler, what he did reveal, which is, they've revealed recently, was it's the 2025 year model Chrysler Airflow. It's a concept vehicle right now, but it is a estimated starting price at around $50,000. That is as of today, but it is a VIP, in my opinion, luxury crossover is what it is.
Ford Mach-E, Tesla Model Y.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's that crossover, oh, man. Here we go. Peer pressure in the automotive industry. Got to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. Well,
or you come out with something original, but I know that's a big risk because nobody gets fired for buying IBM, right? As the old saying was.
I'm with you on that. This is true. This is true.
I don't know, man.
So, good luck to Carlos and the Stellantis family. I'm looking forward to seeing that Chrysler Airflow come out, and I'm kind of happy to see Chrysler come back, and I'm also excited about the Jeep and this whole new, Dare 2030 thing, which again, they said 2 months ago that they were.
So let's comment on that just briefly here. So he came out a couple months ago and said, look, you guys, these are unreasonable expectations. We don't have the budget that it would take to convert our platform to a full EV.
Right.
And we think there was some truth to that. And we even said at the time, like the current generation of EVs is really just a transition, until we get solid state and all that. And pretty quickly here, he's changed direction.
It's a 180. It's a complete 180. I mean, for those of you living on this planet who's been paying attention, he kind of really surprised us all with this. I mean, it looked like to me, or sounded like to me, that he just wasn't going there. It's almost like what we heard from the Bosch CEO about not buying into the whole electric vehicle movement. I get it.
And even was it BMW did the same thing?
Same
They're
thing,
like,
man.
We're not going to go all in.
And but now guess what? I mean, I think with recent events, global events that have occurred and are occurring, with the cost of fuels, I think it definitely highlights a moment in time for us at this point to really consider: are we going all in, or are we not? And either way, you've got your challenges. Either way, you have your challenges. Again, for all of you out there, you gasoline engine lovers, we love them too. You can't beat them. They're awesome. But we're at a different phase in time right now where things are changing. I don't think those gasoline engines are going to go away for a while. Again, the goals that are set by these companies of, say, by 2025, 2030, 2038, those are nice goals to set. That is going to continue to change.
They're going to count on your short-term memory.
That's exactly right, and that's how it works. Talk to us in 10 years. We'll see where we're actually at. I hope that some of these companies can actually achieve the goals that they have put in place, because that would mean then that they have been very successful at what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
And that remains to be seen. There's a lot of promises being made and a lot of models coming out. GM is at the forefront right now. Them and Ford closely behind with the number of models that they're going to be putting out over the next 5 years. So we shall see. But you got to stay tuned to us here at the Parts County Gurus in order to be informed of all that stuff. So make sure you go over to partscountyguru.com and click that podcast link. Subscribe to it. Go to youtube.com/Parts County Gurus and hit that subscribe button. Turn it from red to gray. Hit the notification bell for any videos that come out. And thanks for listening to us today. You got anything you want to go in closing here today, Keith?
I've got a parting.
Is this a parting?
Pontification here? Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm ready. I always love them. Let's go.
I'm gonna echo what Jay said over there. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. We've experienced tremendous growth over the past year. And it's all because of you. And we really couldn't do it without you. So just want to reiterate how grateful we are for that. We love what we're doing. Thank you for allowing us to continue doing that. And that's easily done by just hitting that subscribe button and listening to the podcast. So with that, for my partner Jay over there, I'm Keith, telling you, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Fitting, right? Considering we got a guy out here telling us what he's going to do. We'll see what he actually does.
Exactly.
We'll see what he are. All right.
On.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.